that's the average man as I see it. Deeply disconnected from their own masculinity, deeply disconnected from their true power, what they can do, what they can fucking accomplish, the magic that they can bring. Like, we can fucking move mountains. We can do a lot of amazing shit, like telekinesis, reading people's minds, moving objects with your mind, with your hands, bending the elements, moving fire, moving wind, moving water and earth. Like, these things are possible for humans to do. And there's a lot of evidence and people that do these things. But most people will hear this and they'll go, no fucking way, that's bullshit. No way you can move a rock with your mind. No way. Yes, that shit is possible. But we're so deeply disconnected from our spiritual selves that we perceive that shit to be just science fiction. But it actually is real. That's the cool phase that we live in now, is we're gonna see all these things. Like, the proof is coming out now that these things are real. And a lot of minds are gonna be blown, and it's gonna be an awesome thing for the awakening too, for men to see this evidence that magic is real.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the New Age Sage podcast. Here with my guest today, Thor Aarsand. I've seen your videos, pop on my feed, all about things that I love talking about, such as, simulation stuff, matrix, demonism, how to break out of the simulation, how to protect yourself from the darkness, all stuff I super relate to. But before we dive nose deep into that whole way of the world, I'd love to, for us to hear about what you're up to in the world. What's a man like you doing here?
Yeah, good question. What am I doing here? Well, feel like I'm 50% just fucking around and 50% leading a mission, supporting a movement, being a part of a revolution, trying to, actually change the world. And I believe I have a lot of ideas and insights and perspectives on how we can do that. Because at the end of the day, anything in the external is a product of the internal. And if we all really go through an internal revolution, we can see a lot of change in this world. So I'm here to empower people to do that inner work, express themselves authentically, show up in ways that is aligned with their own truth, find their own truth, which is all tied to self-expression, and then go out into the world and express this and share this. We've been telling stories since we were cavemen, and the expression of our own uniqueness is really the medicine that the world needs, authentic self-expression. And I'm really here to just empower as many people to specifically bring this to social media, because it's one of the greatest tools to reach the masses. And I've grown up in kind of like the marketing world and learned how to build brands very successfully. And so that was kind of my first taste, and then I fell into spirituality, and then now I'm kind of bringing those two worlds together. You could call it the path of the enlightened entrepreneur. Is kind of a way to explain this work, this path. I'm not claiming to be enlightened. It's gonna happen in time, but not yet.
When I first searched you on YouTube, I saw a clean-shaven guy, very, very different energy. I can feel it intuitively, focused on, just speaking about like algorithmic things. So I'm curious about what led from that. What was the moment, the breaking moment from that clean-shaven, blonde Nordic boy who didn't seem as, no offense, like powerful, masculine. So what was the turning point there? What kind of got you out of that into this person you are now? Not saying that was wrong, but like I feel a massive shift.
I mean, it has been a massive shift.
So take us on the journey, on the story.
Yeah. Well, if we go a little bit further back, 2016, I got involved in online business. 2018, I ended up dropping out of high school. And then the videos you've seen on YouTube are probably 2018, 2019, 2020. 2019, I had my first mushroom ceremony actually in Ibiza in the north with an amazing group of people. And that really, like, I was involved in spirituality to some extent before that, meditating, trying to, fucking 3 minutes was my cap. I couldn't meditate for more than 3 minutes. I was like, I gotta fucking do something. Very ADHD kid type B, just always moving, running, expressing, doing, creating. And, but yeah, that really, like, I came home from that trip and I was driving slower. for the first time. I'm like, what? I'm driving slow. Interesting. Oh, I don't need to like run everywhere. I don't need to like go so much. And then just, it's been a continuation of that journey. 2020 came around. There was a lot more introspection that happened in that year for a lot more of us.
Yeah.
And
that's when I woke up.
Yeah, that was your experience. Yeah. And so what happened from there, I guess it's just been a deepening and a deepening. The one actually, bro, the biggest transition or the biggest thing that resulted in this, I guess, change from being, this boy with a clean shave to, I guess, a Viking with a beard, is the collapse of the business, the company, shit just fucking falling apart and continuing to kind of, invert on itself, fail, struggles, a lot of bullshit, a lot of struggles, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. That was really how I was transformed, forged in fire, essentially.
Do you believe you had to fall apart to find yourself?
Absolutely. Because I was a dickhead, bro. I was a dickhead. In what ways? I mean, I would bully people. I was the bully. Yeah.
Do you know what pain was driving that?
What pain was driving the bullying? Because I got bullied. Okay. So I was like, you know what? I got to become the bully to protect myself from being bullied. Yeah. So, and I've always been very expressive. I've always been a natural leader. I've got 2 younger brothers, so it's been natural for me to sort of direct, steer, create, control. I've been very addicted to control.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that was, that was what I guess was fueling a lot of the bullying. So yeah, like that I had such a big ego. Also the only reason I got into online business was to make more money than my friend, because I could not live in a reality where he was succeeding at something that was valuable and important, like making money. I want to make money. I'm 16, 17. Couldn't entertain a world where he was making more money than me, because I was winning at everything in my life, in any sport, at school, at fucking paint. Like I was the best at everything that I cared about. Yeah. And it's always been an obsession for me. So like my ego was just like, all right, he's going to make money online. I'm going to make money online, and I'm going to make more money than him. And that didn't happen. And that's where my fucking ego started to die and die and die and die. And it was pretty much 8 years of just fucking some success to keep me, going and keep me motivated. Like, I made like 10K a month at 18, 2 years in. Wow. So I was like, fuck, I'm doing this thing. But then I would kind of cap there for like 5 years, and I would just continue to die and die and die. And it had to happen, because if I was in this position now with that ego and that boyish immaturity, I would do so much damage, bro. And it's scary to think about. And that's one of the problems with influencers today, is the fact that you have people that are boys, kids, immature men with millions of followers influencing the masses.
So your gasoline for motivation back then symbolically was resentment, was being resentful towards this person. And that symbolically can mean many things. Like I perceive my resentment towards sometimes a person, but it was always my father. It was like I wanted to be my father. Yeah. And it was an impossible metric, because he's so successful that I could never. That was my own thing. Like my unconscious driving factor was to beat my dad. And the thing with motivation is that I worked hard, right? And most people who work hard and successful have the illusion that they're healthy and amazing, but their gasoline is resentment. Yeah. So when your motivational factor was to beat, to win, to dominate, to prove someone wrong, I'd love for you to talk about how that kind of energy that most men have in motivation leads them to destruction. And then off that the question, tell us about what the healthier fuel is. What's the healthier alternative to push yourself to accomplish your goals?
Amazing question. It's interesting you mentioned your dad, because he was really at the core of a lot of my fuel too. Not that I was trying to be him, but I wanted his love.
Yeah, same.
And I only remember receiving love from him, or like validation, congrats, pats on the back, when I did something incredible. When I won a competition, or got fucking straight A's, or smashed an exam, or saved the team as a goalkeeper on a football match, And so it was always that desire to do that, but it was coming from this place of unworthiness. It was coming from this place of, yeah, from the ego. And this is the interesting thing is we're all one, you know, we all understand the concept of, you know, the spiritual truth that we're all one, we're all interconnected. And quantum physics has now proven this with science, which is fascinating. That's a whole other tangent we can get into, but that's the truth. That's the world we live in. We are all connected. We are a part of nature. But the ego doesn't believe that. The ego is that one part of us that believes in separation. And so the fuel and the motivation for a lot of our boyish actions is competition, is really finding safety. And in a world of separation, the ego very easily ends up believing that you need to win, you need to compete, you need to, like, you can't rely on other people. It's every man against him, like for himself, every man for himself, and the strongest, fittest of, you know, the strongest survival of the fittest. And that motivation is always going to be at the core of all your actions until you really transcend the ego. And that's what you see, like, that's why billionaires have such high suicide rates, because they're still on the hamster wheel. They're still running from something. They're still seeking something.
It's also like if your driver of success is, as you said astutely, is to further separate, is to, you know, that means domination, power. I'm now number one. It's like a further separation from the concept we are one. And the more successful you get with that motivation, the more separated you feel once you realize, oh shit, I've separated myself so much, I have to come back to the source. So I'm just validating your point. I'm just repeating it back to you. But
that was on the money though. Yeah, absolutely on the money. You're actually in a deeper matrix. A lot of successful people think they've left the matrix, but they've actually dug themselves deeper into the matrix. They're more separate. Physically, you know, buying a fucking private island, separating yourself from people, living alone in this big house with no community. Like, we're meant to live in community. So that's one form of separation. You've got so much more money, you can't resonate with other people in the same way because they can't do what you can do. So it's just separation on separation. And yeah, it's this belief that that next thing is gonna be that quick fix, but it's never that. And yeah, the better form of motivation is, or can, yeah, the better form of motivation can only be found through a spiritual understanding of the world and coming back into yourself, connecting with your own truth, your soul's blueprint, what you actually came here to do, the uniqueness that you bring to this tapestry of life. Everybody is a tree in a forest. If you focus in on one tree, you see all kinds of flaws and weird shit with the tree. But if you zoom out, you see the whole forest. It's so connected. It's so beautiful because everything is uniquely supporting the whole. And that's what we're here to do. And at the core of that is service. At the core of that is supporting other people. And I believe every single person has a journey that they go through that's divinely orchestrated, and what you're there to learn something from that journey so that you can support other people in navigating that journey as well.
Yeah. Before we want to go into all that matrixy pre-programming stuff, but before that, I'd love this to keep building upon for us to understand your humanity. So, you know, as someone who frequently has videos going viral, and you're playing the game of social media, and that's easy to then, you know, base your sense of worth and validation off metrics. So how have you, as an influencer, gone about this game without becoming separated, but separating into egoism and I'm better than people? Because it's the easiest thing to fall into, and I catch myself constantly. So as someone who, you know, is really killing that game and knows the game, how have you transcended that, and how do you recommend other people go about the social media game without separating?
Fucking loaded question. Yeah. How do you navigate social media without, like, from this level of awareness without getting caught in the game? It's very difficult, and it takes a lot of presencing with yourself, because social media is the ultimate tool for shadow work. When you post, your shit's gonna come up. I posted a post today, my shit was coming up still, all the time, every time I post, even opening the app.
What's the shit?
The shit is feelings of really the inferiority wound at the core. feelings of unworthiness. Oh, who am I to lead this mission? Who am I to talk about a revolution? I'm just, part of me is just like, I'm just a boy from Norway born in the mountains. Like,
So
who the fuck am I?
Triggers loops of unworthiness.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of the triggers. Fear of being seen is one of the core wounds people have. You don't have resistance to social media. You just have resistance and fear of being seen. And so, number one, we need to understand how social media plays into our life, how it's an extension of us in many ways, how it's an extension of humanity, and how it is here to support us, how it is here to help us. It is a blessing from the divine, this tool, because it can so rapidly help you grow and become aware of all your bullshit and be triggered into awakening in many ways. But yeah, how do you not get caught in that? Well, it's really staying centered within yourself. One thing that I've begun to do is to, whenever I'm posting, I call in spirit. I invite in spirit, and I'm like, yo, support me in posting this post. Like, we're doing this thing together. I'm not alone in doing whatever I'm doing. Like, everything, most of what I do today is guided by spirit. I'm not really trying to do so much anymore. I'm just letting myself go where I'm being guided. And the guidance is very clear to me because I'm very in tune. And so that has made the pressure a little bit easier, of posting with spirit. All right, if any backlash comes, like, you're talking about the demonic agenda, exposing this, exposing that, exposing big influencers, like, I'm putting myself in a position where I'm quite vulnerable and can easily be, attacked or whatever. And it helps feeling not alone in that. I also have an amazing team that supports me. Recently, actually, hired an executive assistant that's also a seer and a shaman. And so that's a fucking
good tool.
Yeah, it's a good tool, bro. Yeah. So it's having support pillars, the people around you. Having fucking community is absolutely vital. Like, I could have not done this and like led this mission and, talk about the revolution, all this shit alone, secluded from society in Norway. No, it's only possible because I got amazing people around me.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you and to tell to listeners and viewers on their journey is that if utilized wisely and correctly, you can use social media as a shadow work tool to, for me, I'll explain my own, I still deal with it, right? Today I posted a podcast clip that performed worse than my usual ones. And I immediately feel the feeling of not enough. This is, for me, it's like a combination. I'm not enough. And then this is a sign that I'm going to fail. Like, one post then means my whole dream,
exactly.
my whole vision
Exactly, bro.
Yeah. And crazy for me because I've seen my whole life on psychedelics. I've seen like the pre-programming blueprint. So I know it's real, but still that little thing makes me believe to separate, to feel like I'm going to fail. So it's this constant, like, it can be used as a tool to double down on your own self-worth and healing. Like, okay, no, that's not true. I believe in myself. But I think in you, what I'm going to credit you with is that you allow yourself to feel the unworthiness when it comes up. You allow yourself to feel the doubt, right? Most people can't feel that. They'll actually deny it, repress it, and then that becomes a shadow. So I think what I hear back to you is there's no magic solution here. Just that if those feelings of unworthiness come up, feel them, process them, and then use that as an invitation to return to the heart, to what is true. Is that a correct perception of what was being told?
Absolutely. It's just a feedback loop of, it's showing you the parts of yourself that is still disconnected from spirit. That's all. Yeah. And so you're like, oh, thank you for this invitation. Let me look at this. And you don't necessarily always need to like look at it. Sometimes it's impractical. Maybe you're in a meeting and like, oh, you got shit coming up. Like, you can't just go and fucking sit down and meditate for 30 minutes every time. And that's not necessarily the way to move through. It's just being present with whatever is and arising and still moving, not letting those emotions paralyze you.
Yeah. I have weird thoughts sometimes. Maybe you agree with it, that my soul chose my wounding, that if I didn't have the childhood I did and the wounds I was born into, I wouldn't have the skills and motivation I have. Like, I see why I'm so hard on myself. I see why I have this self-worth issue, because it pushes me to a high extent, right? Like, I don't think you would have the high performing abilities you have without that, hero's backstory. Do you ever feel that way? Like,
absolutely.
That some intelligent part of me chose these woundings as a personality blueprint to create me.
Dude, absolutely. And you can extend that to literally every single aspect of your life. You chose your parents, you chose your siblings. I know exactly what my two younger brothers are here to teach me in this life. My youngest bro is not really doing that much. He's kind of figuring his shit out. He's 20 right now, but he has the confidence of a fucking lion. And he hasn't really done much to back that up, but he's just innately confident. And I'm like, damn, look at me running, like trying to fucking conquer the world before I feel like I'm worthy. But he's just got it. And then my second youngest brother, he's 23. He's kind of just in his normal job. He's got a girl, they're engaged, and he loves his life. He is so happy. He's so joyful with the simple things in life. So there's two lessons there that I'm like, wow, that's fucking beautiful. So to your point, yeah, we chose this, and our hardship, our lessons, our family, our environment, the country you spawn in, the family you jump into, it's all planned for you to become who you need to be. But it's still on you to become who you were destined to be, your highest self. That's still on you to really lean into that. Most people today are not really allowing the triggers and the guidance from the divine to they're not really listening to that, and so they're still just in this suffering loop, suffering, learning the same or receiving the same feedback again and again and again.
Yeah. Before we dive into that full head on, I wanted to ask one more question on the more generic standpoint. You mentioned a point of that your brother is innately confident, and there's something that is a common thread in big influencers like someone like Hormozy, whose whole ethos is that you have to outwork yourself down. That your sense of confidence is only going to come from your output, your product, right? What do you think about that? What do you feel like? Is that complete nonsense? Is there a balance? Should you just feel innately confident for just being you, for just being a human, for just existing here, for just being a divine spark of the infinity awareness and divinity? What do you feel with that whole concept?
Good question. Alex Hormozy is obviously a fantastic business owner, and he's also on many levels running from his own shadows. And I don't believe that, because the confidence that Alex Hormozy speaks to is ego confidence, and that will for always be vulnerable.
What is ego confidence?
Say again?
What is ego confidence?
Ego confidence is confidence solely backed by physical achievements, material shit. You've got a house, all right, that adds to your confidence. You got a car, that adds to your confidence. But when that is taken away, if a fucking storm comes or whatever, your house burns down and then that shit's gone and now you're fucked. So then it wasn't actually true confidence. True confidence is what my youngest brother has, innate confidence, and that's divine confidence. That's connected to spirit. That's just knowing that you just existing is enough. You just being is enough. That's it. And there's obviously also a shadow side to both. The shadow side to Alex Hormozy's perspective on confidence, you got to do. Well, you'll never be enough, and you'll always be on a hamster wheel operating like that. And if you lose your shit, then you're fucked. And so there's a shallow confidence. The shadow side to the divine inherent confidence is that, well, there's then no need to do anything. I'm perfect as I am, so I don't need to do. But you came here into this physical experience, this physical body, to do. And so it's very easy to bypass your human experience. And this is where you kind of have spiritual people, kind of escaping to 5D because they're just overwhelmed by the matrix. But no, you came to play in the matrix.
So for most men or people who are, I never heard that perspective before. My mind's a little blown. But if we're following the ego confidence route, for men who are, trying to find confidence in bagging a baddie or getting a Lamborghini, what should they shift that North Star to?
Well, I still see, depending on where you're at on your journey, I still see a lot of value in the ego-backed confidence. And that's where most of us start. And for me, that was, mastering a fucking backflip on snowboard, or getting bigger muscles, or learning a skill, or knowing how to speak to people, or looking people in the eye. Those are all amazing things, and you should engage with those because you came into this physical experience to engage with those. And at a certain point, it's only going to get you so far. It's going to get you moving. It's going to get you up to a certain speed on the road, but you're never going to be able to go light speed with that confidence. And so at a certain point, you got to switch gears. You got to switch vehicles. You got to upgrade to a fucking spaceship or whatever. And that's where, the spiritual teachings, and that area of your life gets to be explored.
What is that spiritual confidence?
The spiritual confidence is knowing that you are God, really. Knowing that there's more to this life than this physical body, that, there's a purpose to your life, that you are worthy. Just you existing is enough. And and that we're all connected and all just here to kind of dance this divine dance in a temporary time. We're spiritual beings at core, just having a temporary human experience. And when you can really, it's one thing to understand that intellectually. As you continue on your path, that belief becomes embodied. So it's not just knowledge in the head, but it's wisdom, which is in the body. You can feel it. And when you walk in that, you just move differently. And certain things that might easily trigger you just make you laugh, or you're just more just like detached. Like shit's just funny. Life is just funny. For me, it's kind of where I've been finding myself just like laughing at random shit here and there. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like stressed the fuck out about this thing. But in truth, it's whatever, I'm just here fucking around for a little bit and then doing something else.
So now it's time to dive into the Matrix. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna read you a quote from the movie, and I want to hear your perspective on it. And use it as a starting point to just explain first what this Matrix is from your eyes, different levels of it, and how to eventually live beyond it. Okay, the Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around. What do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so injured, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it makes me think of how everything unfolds in divine timing, and there is a purpose to all of it. Like, a lot of people are not ready to be unplugged simply because the unplugging of their paradigm, their worldview, their belief would possibly make them suicidal and kill themselves. Like, you had a lot of stories from World War II, I believe, of pilots, flying, Christian pilots. And then they would land and they would fucking bring a shotgun to their mouth and blow off their head. Why? Because they saw aliens and spaceships and shit flying around, which absolutely shattered their entire worldview. And when your entire worldview is shattered like that, I mean, that is death to the ego. So why even be alive when nothing makes sense?
Yeah, I truly believe that. I don't know, did you ever face suicidal ideation?
The thought has popped into my head of it would be convenient to kill myself right now, but only on certain plant medicines, but it's never been like I've actually considered it.
Yeah, for me, I think it was my experience, because I kind of see, I'm happy to hear you didn't go through that, but for me, it's like so many of us have to go through it because of that whole thing, right? Like I was like dick sucking the Matrix. I was like stuck in it so intensely that for me to break out of it, I had to get suicidal, and I had to, actually, I was also on like a bunch of pharmaceuticals that I had to get off of. But I'm validating what you're saying is that I had to get to that place of complete, like, literally, I have to kill my old self. It's a mythological rebirth,
absolutely,
to some extent. So I fully agree with you. So how would you define the Matrix? What is the Matrix? I mean, there's different levels to it. If you could define it on a simple term, what would it be?
I have never actually grappled with that question.
We can figure it out. We can figure it out together.
Yeah,
I can start off if you want.
Yeah, share your perspective.
I think there's two levels to the Matrix. We can start level one, which to me is a perceptual matrix. That what reality is literally what we perceive it to be, right? So you and I could be let's say me and a liberal could be looking at Trump, and I'll see my own perspective. They'll see their own perspective, but our perception of it is totally different. So we're watching two different movies, literally. Like the new people of the New Earth are watching one movie, people who are in the Matrix are watching one movie, just because the perceptions are completely different. So, and literally, quantum physics shows that our brains decode, energy into physical matter based on our perception of it. So that's one level, right? So then the question is, to me, the matrix is, therefore, those who control our perceptions control reality. So the first level is those who control our perceptions through brainwashing, media, Hollywood, pharmaceutical industry. They hijack our perceptions to uphold their own power structure. So that's the first level matrix, is hijack perceptions, leading us to believe a false reality that upholds their own power system to keep them in power. That's level one. How does that sound?
I absolutely agree, yeah.
And how does that, let's go on that part first. How does that manifest for itself in the world? How are people stuck into that perceptual prison?
Yeah. I mean, it's on point. It's the Matrix is a story that you're just looping in your head. So you'll have an experience and you'll perceive that experience based on a past story. And in many ways in this Matrix, those stories, those paradigms, those beliefs have been programmed into us from birth. And the fear programming is the core of this, that we are not safe, that we need to run and do and create all the time because otherwise we're not worthy and otherwise we're not going to be able to protect ourselves and all of that stuff. The hamster wheel is in essence the Matrix, constantly just doing. And that's of the benefit to the elite because they're running a massive corporation, a massive business of total control. And how do they keep this conglomerate going? Well, you've got rats on a hamster wheel, just doing. And so the programming of the people to express themselves in that way is, yes, the Matrix that we live in today. And then you also have the internal Matrix, which is just your own complexities. The external Matrix is a product of the internal Matrix. To fix the external Matrix, we need to decode and decipher our internal Matrix. Why do we do what we do? How did we get so fucked up? What happened here, and here that enabled me to move in this way? That not necessarily enabled me, but that made me move in this way. Why do I operate the way I operate? And this is where you get into your beliefs, your paradigms, and your perspectives, and also your childhood trauma. Because a lot of how we move today is a product of how we were raised and how we were taught to move by our parents.
I do believe step one of breaking out of the Matrix is discovering what perceptions you have that aren't even yours.
Yeah.
That's step one. What beliefs I have aren't even mine.
Yeah.
And when you start getting in that space, you realize almost everything I believe is not even my belief.
Yeah.
It's everyone else's.
Dude.
So what were some of your most powerful self-limiting beliefs that impacted your external reality the most? That once fixed, fundamentally changed your life? What code was fucking you up the most?
The code that was fucking me up the most was the hamster wheel programming, that I have to constantly do, win to be worthy of 5 minutes of validation. And so I was never really happy. I was always operating in tension and in fear and needing external validation, needing someone else to validate me. So I would bend and mold and optimize how I would speak and move in certain ways depending on the group that I was with. And it's torture to the soul because that part of you, the inner child, just wants to express itself authentically. But here you are fucking calculating everything that you're doing, overthinking everything, creates a lot of pain. And I guess purging of that programming has been my greatest code unlocked, my greatest transformation, my greatest achievement has been transcending that, because now I'm a lot more happy and I don't move anymore. I don't try to please anyone. I'm not trying to please an algorithm on Instagram. To a certain degree, I'm aware of the algorithm and how to play it, but I don't really give a fuck about what anyone else thinks, because at the end of the day too, like, everybody is just weird as fuck. Like anyone you know on a deep level, they're weird. Like, we're all fucking weird. And the weirdness that we have within ourselves is our uniqueness. That is spirit. And the etymology of the word weird actually stems from weird, from some ancient English language, which means to be connected to spirit, to move in purpose, to move in destiny. And so your expression of your weirdness is actually you being in aligned and in tune with spirit. And so, yeah, that shift did everything, because I don't really I don't feel like I got to prove myself to anyone anymore. And there's a lot of fucking liberation there. yes, it shows up a little bit here and there. Like I still want to fucking show my dad that, you know, I'm doing cool shit and like whatever, but it's very little of that. And I don't have anyone on a pedestal. I meet fucking super famous people that are a lot more famous than me. I've been around millionaires, billionaires, and I'm just like, they're just people. They're just human beings with their own fucking complexities and bullshit and trauma and struggles. And yeah, it's a very beautiful place to operate from because you don't hide, you don't suppress yourself no matter the environment that you're in.
Mm-hmm. How do you describe the average man in the Matrix, the average NPC build in the Matrix? How would you quantify that?
Well, the thing that comes to mind is the quote by Joe Rogan. Most men today lead lives of quiet desperation. They're desperate for change. They're suffering so deeply and they're just running on this hamster wheel of numbing themselves. They're escaping all the signs of, fuck, my life is shit. Like deep down, most men today know their life sucks and they hate it and they don't want to live it, but they keep on convincing themselves through stimulation, through vaping, through going out on the weekend, and through having these like super high experiences that, but it was worth it. Every Friday, the average man feels like, fuck yeah, I'm happy about my life, like I'm doing it. Then Sunday comes, it's like, fuck me. And so that's the average man as I see it. Deeply disconnected from their own masculinity, deeply disconnected from their true power, what they can do, what they can fucking accomplish, the magic that they can bring. Like we can fucking move mountains. We can do a lot of amazing shit, like telekinesis, reading people's minds, moving objects with your mind, with your hands, bending the elements, moving fire, moving wind, moving water and earth. Like these things are possible for humans to do. And there's a lot of evidence and people that do these things. But most people will hear this and they'll go, no fucking way, that's bullshit. No way you can move a rock with your mind. No way. Yes, that shit is possible. But we're so deeply disconnected from our spiritual selves that we perceive that shit to be just science fiction. But it actually is real. And yeah, that's the cool phase that we live in now, is we're going to see all these things. Like the proof is coming out now that these things are real, and it's going to be, a lot of minds are going to be blown, and it's going to be an awesome thing for the awakening too, for men to see this evidence that magic is real.
Do you feel like it's in everyone's soul blueprint to possibly break out of the Matrix? That's what I often think about. Like, is it kind of like a pre-programmed initiation, or some people like just don't have the levels of spiritual advancement in their soul's incarnational patterns to wake up? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of different perspectives on this. There's some teachings, books, channeled works that are talking about how certain human beings on this planet are actually not, like, don't have a soul. They are created on Earth and they are a program of the Matrix to just kind of keep you in the Matrix.
NPCs, yeah.
NPCs, like the truest definition of an NPC, a person that actually doesn't have a soul. So there's some teachings or channeled works around that.
Do you believe that?
I don't know. Okay. See, there's so much to like grapple with. The other perspective, and this is from Dolores Cannon's books, I believe, she talks about how there's a lot of souls on planet Earth that are stuck, that have incarnated here to learn a lesson and grow, because the purpose of our lifetime on this planet is evolution. It's for the soul. The soul evolves through experience. So we're here to experience and grow. But through this experience, these souls, beings, get so caught up in the bullshit and the negative that they accumulate a lot of karma.
Yeah.
And then when you die, you've got negative karma. So you got to reincarnate on planet Earth to clear up that karma. But the planet is so fucked, you fuck up again. Yeah. And now you got people just looping lifetimes on planet Earth because their karma is so fucked.
I believe that one.
Yeah, I feel there's a lot of truth to that. And then the question is, does everybody have, is that also divine design, or is that...
Oh, now we're getting into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like, I've been thinking about this because a guy I respect a lot, I don't agree with everything he says, but David Icke, I'm sure you know David Icke, his new work fully believes that we live in a basically that our souls get tricked into reincarnating into a simulation of sorts that is created by a demonic, inverted consciousness to trap us in a simulation and trap us in the wheel of reincarnation. I don't necessarily agree with all of that, but he lays it out in a way where I can't sit there and be like, no way.
Yeah.
So what do you feel about that? What do you feel like we're in a kind of demonic trap that our light is stuck in? I mean, it explains a lot, right? Like everything in society is inverted, right? People congregate in a club with alcohol, like they're getting together and drinking something to forget themselves and separate. Like everything in society is inverted, right? The most celebrated person nowadays is a fat trans person. Like that in and of itself is like the symbol of an inverted society is what you uphold as the most moral. If that's most moral, we're living in a fucking inverted planet.
Yeah.
I believe it's all divine, but where do you stand on that? Where do you stand on the belief that we live in some kind of demonic simulation?
Well, there's much evidence to back up that this is a demonic simulation, but I don't believe that this planet is inherently negative. There is Dolores, I believe it's Dolores Cannon. And if you're not familiar with Dolores Cannon's work, she is I don't even know what she is, like some psychotherapy, regression therapist person that basically takes you into a state, allows you to access past lifetimes, and you speak.
Yeah.
And like, you can't bullshit this shit because it's just like the evidence and information these people bring is just mind-blowing experiences. You got kids just spitting about quantum physics and shit, whatever. It's mad. But basically, she's written so many books, and a lot of one thing she was talking about was kind of compiling different past lifetimes from different planets and whatnot, and these people speaking and expressing I guess the creation of planet Earth. In one of her books, she talks about like the creation of planet Earth. So according to her, the story of planet Earth is it's this new divine experiment where we're going to create this planet where everybody is going to have free will to do whatever they want, but they're going to forget that they are spiritual beings. So they're going to be fully caught in this physical experience, and they don't know that they're spiritual. And the game of this life on Earth is to realize that you are a spiritual being, live in a temporary human experience and not fully identify with this body. And they created these human beings that were these divine, perfect children, essentially. And now we're like, oh, this sounds like the story of the Bible, the divine, perfect child. But then apparently some asteroid hit planet Earth, and it brought in some virus that kind of fucked with the coding. And they were like, oh, should we just scrap this project? And they were like, nah, let's actually see how it plays out. And this is sort of the negative shit that came to planet Earth, the I guess, Satan in Christian terms. And they were like, no, let's see how it plans out. Let's see if they can deal with this challenge. And this has been going on for, however long. And society is, in certain societies, like the Mayans, for example, attained enlightenment, group enlightenment. Like the whole Mayans, like where the fuck did the Mayans go? Nobody knows where the Mayans went. 5,000 years ago. And apparently the story is they all attained enlightenment and just fucking, achieve, you get a light body is what they say. Your physical body just transcends into light body, and you can still see the physical, but people can't see you, essentially. And so, yeah, the story, and so that's kind of like how Earth came to be. The whole story of the flood too was like, we've kind of just fucked up again and again and again, and this experiment hasn't been successful according to this teaching. And an example of that is like Atlantis and Lemuria. You hear about these stories. So super advanced societies and very spiritual, and you also had a lot of darkness in those times, and we tried to like fuck with technology and like nuclear type shit, and the divine were just like, we can't let these kids on this planet play anymore because they're gonna create ripples beyond this planet that fucks up with more of creation. Reset. Big flood, fucking sink the continent, starting scratch. And now we're kind of coming to the precipice of that. It was 15,000 years ago, according to a lot of different elements. You got Graham Hancock talking about a great flood that happened 15,000 years ago. And so there's a lot of things that kind of add up that's interesting. And now we're kind of back to the point where the breaking point. Will we transcend and actually fucking figure this shit out at mass? Or are we going to fuck up again? And this is, according to these channel teachings, the last attempt. Like, if we don't figure this shit out now, we're scrapping planet Earth and we're like, fuck this project.
Where do you feel it going right now?
Where I feel it going, bro, is I feel it's going in the right direction, but there's also gonna be, they talk about like a split where the people that are fully leaning into their own awakening and enlightenment and following the path of New Earth will essentially jump dimensions and like live on a new Earth, but in another dimension. And then you're going to have the people that are continued to stuck in the demonic agenda.
So you're saying that, I think people get confused. You're saying that on the same planet,
yeah,
two camps of people are going to exist on the same planet, but they're tuned into two completely different frequencies.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but they're still physically in the same space. I'm not suddenly being like Thanos out of the
yeah. Like, so no. Okay. But two, I guess, according to, I think this is, dude, there's so many books that I've been reading on this. It's difficult.
I'm with you,
bro.
I'm exactly with you. It's hard to like.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think what I do respect is on about you and what I feel in you. I think any seeker should have is that we read everything. Yeah. We question everything. We don't really know what the fuck's going on. We have different theories. That's a real explorer. Yeah. A person who like just believes Christianity or just believes Islam or just believes some new age, demonic trap, like they're stuck in a box that makes them feel safe, right? You and I, we play with the fire, right? Every fucking week I'm like, holy shit, like I'm questioning everything I believe in. I sit there like, what the fuck? So I'm it's cool, but yeah.
And that's how it should be. Like at the end of the day, it's like, we don't really know, like who the fuck knows, right? But you can connect dots. And this is what's fascinating to me is this person and this thing and that thing. And then now this thing from some channeled work of some being from the sixth dimension are all spitting and talking about the same thing. That's where I go, there's something here. Yeah. And there's just so much that kind of adds to this kind of puzzle piece that we're kind of playing with right now. But like in essence, it's like you're going to have this split. And again, this is the teaching. I'm not saying this is fully what I believe. But yeah, you're going to have this split in society. You're going to have the people, because again, this is the matrix. Like what you perceive is what you are going to create. So the people that see the negative and just solely feed into that, they're going to create that reality where they live in hell on earth. And that's where we're going. We're creating hell on earth and we're creating heaven on earth. And you really get to choose. Now, what that looks like physically, if that's, we're all on the same planet and, the heaven on earth is in Africa and then hell on earth is in America, I don't think it's going to work like that because I see it more as a energetic shift, a different dimensions essentially, because what's happening now connecting to the internal revolution is we've for the longest time been living and operating from our solar plexus, our ego chakra, the chakra of separation and self-empowerment, which is how we move in this physical body on earth. Now we're moving up into the heart, which is the belief in union. And so that is the fourth energy center. So you could say the fourth dimension, the third energy center, the third dimension. So we're kind of moving and splitting in that. And the energetic frequency of the heart is of a different vibration. And the people that are operating from fear and from these lower energies can't even perceive this, can't even perceive a person that's fully in their heart. And so, it's going to be fucking interesting to see, but like,
what keeps you from going into fear? I think a lot of people, myself included, will hear this stuff like, we could like go into a black hole and the creator can be like, fuck this matrix, we out, like this shit failed. What do you go into fear? Like what helps you not go into fear with all this? Well, the average person listens to this stuff and like, they can't listen to it because the fear makes them block the information because they don't want to feel that way. So what makes you feel safe in reading and digesting all this stuff, which almost nobody can?
The core of it is I'm not afraid of death. I'm actually like pretty gassed about the day that I die. Like I'm not gonna, die early. I'm gonna have a sick ass life. But when I die, that's gonna be a fun day because I get to like fully see it. And I believe this is only a temporary life. So if I was to be killed tomorrow, I'm like, all right, cool. Like I don't really have a choice. So like, what am I to do? And I don't believe that I'm going to end up in eternal torture and fucking bullshit. Nah, like when I die, the experience that I'm going to have is going to be infinitely more blissful than anything that I can experience in this life. Because at the core, creation is love. And so when you transcend this, you're just kind of merging with the field again. And the next adventure awaits. Like, this is just a game that I'm playing. That's how I see it. And so that perspective allows me, I guess, to detach, and these emotions that are only of this physical being and of this ego doesn't hold the same power over me because I'm not that identified with the ego.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the dot connecting, which is actually a useful thing to do. And the only dots I've connected really is if you compare all the religious texts, all the esoteric texts, all the channel texts, the constant seems to be that in order to find our highest conception of self, in order to find our strongest self, we can only get there by battling or encountering dark forces, opposing forces. Psychoanalytically, Jung called an archetype called Vatico that stimulates darkness to awake. He said the devil is responsible for everyone's spiritual awakening. So is he really that bad?
Exactly, right?
Level, and then every hero mythology is literally, the only hero can become the hero by beating the darkness. So it's like, in everything, it seems to be that the darkness is actually serving the divine to push us to find it. And the question then is, like, why do we have to experience that? Like, why, like, I know the answer, but I'm curious to you, like, how do you answer that? Like, when someone is, why did I have to, get fucking shot 5 times to experience that? Why did I have to go through my kid dying? Like, that, whenever I talk to someone who's a hater, the first thing they always say is, why did that kid have to get cancer? So, like, it's like, why did their soul choose to experience that dance with the demonic?
It's context for the bliss that we are in truth. It's just adding reference points for us to get a more complete understanding of our power as creators, our infinity. And it's also inviting us into a higher evolution of experience, a more expanded experience, because it's, when you go through the darkest shit, you grow the most. In the darkest moments is also often where God comes through. You crack, and it's through those cracks that the light comes through.
Yeah, and Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote the Gulag Archipelago, and the thing that I gained the most from it is that he describes that I spent years in tens of years in a Gulag prison, the worst you could imagine, and I can leave. The only thing I can say leaving that is that your sensitivity to light is dependent on how dark your life has become.
Exactly. If your branches are trying to reach heaven, you got to have roots reaching hell. If you want to touch heaven, your roots got to reach hell. And so that's it. And I saw this quote the other day. It said that religion is for people that fear hell. Spirituality is for people that have already been to hell. Mm-hmm. And that fucking lands, dude.
Yeah.
Because it's through venturing into hell, through going into all of that darkness that you actually find yourself. Because in those darkest moments, none of this bullshit that the ego is obsessed about matters. It all just withers away. In the deepest pain, you see what truly matters, what truly actually is important.
Yeah, so I've been trained by a guru / shaman since I've been 21. And when he tells me about why our souls come here, I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. He says that, like, if you meet someone who's from New York City and has a grit to them versus someone who, grew up in the mountains all the time, there's some, like,
that's the difference between me and you. You're in New York City. I was born in the mountains.
But he's like, if you do Earth, if you go to Earth, your soul comes out with some grit, some, like, coolness, some edginess, some like, I did that shit, motherfucker, and I conquered that. There's some, like, it's like a badge of, like, yeah, I did that shit, that he says that. I'm like, oh, that kind of resonates,
Bro, they say that being to planet Earth in this time is the biggest cosmic flex.
Really?
Yeah.
What makes you believe? I feel your body light up when you say that. What makes you believe that?
Because this planet is fucked, bro. It's so intense, and I guess just through studying different texts and teachings and channeled works and all of that stuff, it just makes sense. Like, there is so much suffering, there is so much darkness on this planet, and yeah, it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge, and especially also having experienced insane states of bliss, living, the lives that we're living. We've gotten here by fucking working through our own shit, and also to get here, like, you've had a lot of fucking phenomenal experiences. You've been through hell, but you've also gotten to taste heaven. So having had those experiences, and being able to see the contrast between how most people live and how what feels to be our higher truth what's actually beyond all this 3D matrix BS, you could say. I'm like, yeah, that feels true. It feels true that this planet is just this, one of the darkest, most difficult planets to incarnate on. Because, I mean, if the whole universe, bro, it's just planets like this planet, like, I don't know, like, the creator kind of was sloppy when when making the cosmos then.
One of my close friends, Aaron Apke, he's a spiritual teacher. He tells me that in this dimension on Earth, your soul, it's like a school where your soul can polarize incredibly fast. Like if you really want to correct some terrible karma, you just pull up here, like have a fucking crazy experience, come back out. It's like it's like a Harvard. It's like the Harvard of dimensions. So you go into being like, I'm going to come out really educated and really polarized.
Or really fucked up.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, I mean, he explains it like you can either come out, more negatively polarized, more demonic, more evil, or more positively polarized.
Yeah.
And in this dimension, we have that, literally, the one thing I can say, the thesis I can say on how to live a good life, or what's true is that, catalyst is neutral. Like Earth, higher self, whatever you call it, God, will present you with difficult situations, no matter who you are, right? And the free will choice we have is is to perceive it in a way to become more closer to God, or to perceive it in a way to further separate into the ego. Yes. And the more you choose the positive path of perceiving it in a way to come closer to God, the more you kind of gain that spiritual aura. And the more you perceive it in a way to step back and separate, do drugs, watch porn, the more you become, negatively polarized. Has that been your experience as well?
Absolutely. And it's like you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. There is no staying still. And that's why it's so important that we talk about this shit now, and that we fucking help the men that are struggling, the women that are struggling, because they are spiraling downwards. And what a lot of people need that are spiraling is help. They need someone else to fucking pull them out of that rut, give them some positive momentum, affirm that for a little bit so they can start running in the right direction.
So let's go now into the whole concept of demonism. So again, why I respect you, I'm not trying to glaze you, but why I respect you is that, dude, so many spiritual influencers are so fucking scared or don't know about the darkness. When I see a spiritual influencer or guru who doesn't talk about the darkness or demonism, I'm like, you're full of shit. Like, that you got it. Like, you can only ascend if you truly understand that game. Like, if you're not aware of that, if you're not aware of the darkness, demonism, Satan, he's got you. That thing's got you fucking hook, line, and sinker. So for me, I was spiritually awake, and I was like doing the work and being, the light and doing the Joe Dispenza stuff. But when I discovered that the darkness was real, that was a whole other fucking catapult to realize the truth of things. So contextually, what made you aware of the darkness? And then what gave you the motivation to speak about it? When you speak about it, then you're really called crazy. So what made you feel that way? And then we can go into like how to actually identify what darkness is.
Yeah. Interesting. When did so my childhood, for I guess a little bit of context, I grew up in a like middle class family in Norway, but in Norway that's pretty set. Like we had a cabin since I was young in the mountains, and I spent a lot of time there. So I had an ability to kind of express myself in many different ways. There's no, not a lot of deep trauma, no, like assault or anything. My parents are very kind, and I had a really cushy, beautiful childhood. Most kids' dream was my childhood. And so my first real encounters with like demonic shit was on certain plant medicines, actually, in certain environments. That's where I really saw.
Tell me the story.
Well, one time I did 7 grams of Liberty Caps, which is one of the strongest psychedelic mushrooms. I call it the shadow work mushroom because it's fucking hardcore. They grow in Norway. And I did that alone in a cabin in the mountains at midnight. It was a storm outside. And I was literally living in hell, like a hell loop for 6 hours straight. And I saw so much fucked up shit. I saw my parents and brothers and sisters get murdered. I saw myself die in so many different ways. I was, throwing babies up into the air and stabbing them with spears. Like, I just saw all this fucked up shit that I was like, damn, like I've done this. It felt like I had done that in past lives and type B. And I was like, fuck, there's a lot there. And So that was my first taste, and that's only like 2 years ago. And then
What was your conclusion out of that experience? Were you like, was I just like in some bad dream? Was that actually some past life stuff? Am I just tapping into the portion of the logos or collective unconscious that is evil, and I have to see that? What was your take of out of that experience?
as soon as I got out of it, it took me a fucking week to even process what happened. I was kind of, I didn't admit it to myself at the time, but it kind of fucked me up for a little bit.
Well, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, no, you gotta fucking go through hell. That was but like, nah, that kind of fucked me up, which is why you gotta be very conscious of plant medicines. And like, I was alone. Like, you don't fucking do that many mushrooms alone in the mountains. Like,
No, you really
dark shit was fucking around the space, bro. Like, one thing that is interesting is I filmed the whole thing on my cameras. I want to react to that at one point. It's kind of scary to go back and look at the footage because I look kind of possessed in certain clips and whatnot. And I was lighting the fire in the cabin, and I just couldn't stop myself from putting wood on the fire, and it was so hot, and I was complaining in the video that it's so hot, and I just keep pouring wood on the fire. The cabin was probably 50 degrees Celsius, which is 120 Fahrenheit. Inside the cabin, I was scared it was going to burn down. And I opened the doors just to kind of let some fresh air in, and then everything just blows off the tables, and I just feel like, fuck, it felt like there's demons all around me. So it was a very interesting experience. Again, why you need to do, if you're doing plant medicines and shit, have a person holding the space. You need some shaman, some Christed person.
Who isn't an Instagram influencer who doesn't know anything? Yeah.
Say again?
So
yeah.
Who isn't some like fake Instagram influencer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some person that's just in fucking doing ayahuasca ceremonies to make money or whatever the fuck.
No, you need some real people there.
Dude, ridiculous. My second encounter with demonic shit was actually on, I mean, you see the demonic in a lot of things. I mean, just walking down the street, you see people just like totally fucking inverted in their ego consciousness, like operating with all their distortions and whatnot. Like, that's really the core of the demonic agenda. We can get into that. But I went to Envision Festival last year, and I had an awesome experience at that, but there was a lot of demonic shit roaming around there, especially Saturday night. From 1 a.m. till 5 a.m. was fucking demonic, bro. You had people just walking around like blacking out. I had a guy just like fucking clock out right in front of me whilst I was walking towards the exit, and he's on the floor spazzing out. People are like fucking and because a lot of people that go to these festivals are spiritual seekers. And so they're very fresh, and they don't really know who they are, and they kind of believe all kinds of shit. And so you had a whole pride parade there at Envision, which was a kind of red flag for me when I saw that. And they serve alcohol there, and people are doing all kinds of drugs. So you got people on a cocktail of drugs who have no fucking clue who they are. I have no idea about like spirituality in essence and like how deep this shit goes. When you pop these certain drugs, you open yourself up to like fucking have shit come through you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And if you're not fucking protecting yourself, like, demons will easily enter into your being and your space. And what's interesting is that I've not really done a lot of drugs, especially like more of the party kind of drugs. So I was like, I want to try some MDMA. I've never really done that. And so ended up finding this guy. He sold me some MDMA, but it was MDA, which is more psychoactive. He didn't give me the right instructions. I just ended up fucking spraying that thing because I didn't feel anything. And I ended up taking like 5 times the max dose of MDA. And I'm just at one point just like, holy fucking shit, blasting off. And I just run from one stage, because at an Envision Festival, you got the dance stage where people are, dancing and fucking whatnot. And then you got the chill place where people meditate and just like sleep. I go over there, lay down on the floor, and just boom. And it was a full-on DMT type experience. And I saw everything that was happening at Envision Festival from this space. And I was just seeing fucking demons, dark entities feasting off of people's souls and just harvesting them in this space. And it was just so fucking scary and freaky and fucked up. And I came out of that experience like the next day. I didn't sleep that night, obviously. And I was also like, dude, I need to protect myself. And so I actually made this like shield wall of Christ. Like, I called in Christ. I'm like, Yeshua, my bro, I need you right now. I made this shield wall, and I'm not necessarily Christian, but I've got a relationship with Yeshua.
Same here.
He came through to protect me. And I felt very safe in that little ice wall of Christ. And but I came back to on Sunday morning, and I was fucking pissed at the founders of the festival and how they could just let this kind of shit happen. Like, there's no integrity. Like, what the fuck is going on? You're hosting a festival and you know who's coming, spiritually seeking people, and you just let all this shit just kind of fucking happen. It's like it's been sold out. It's like the demonic agenda has fully infiltrated that. And that was sad to me, and I didn't really know that this was a thing. And it was literally that moment, and that was in Costa Rica, March this year. It was in that moment that I was like, somebody's got to fucking talk about this shit. And if nobody else is going to talk about this shit, the lack of integrity in these spiritual leaders, these people that are facilitating and hosting these events, same thing with fucking Burning Man, totally fucking hijacked.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
It's like, if nobody's going to talk about it, then I got to fucking talk about this shit then. And make it, I guess, a little bit more normal for us to talk about this stuff. Because nobody's holding these people accountable, and it's a fucking disgrace. And what's fascinating to me is I know a lot of people that know that this shit is happening, but nobody talks about it. Sexual assault in spiritual spaces. Yeah. Like, dude.
I'm talking about it with you.
Yeah, dude, we're talking about it.
I've seen it all. I think the trap, I equate the demonic trap of spirituality with wokeism. It's like, if I am spiritual, I have the identity of spirituality, I am now the light, I am now moral, which means I'm not like, the darkness can't get me. If I throw a ketamine orgy with psychedelics, it's spiritual, so no darkness can come. Exactly. That's the trap, right? Wokeism is like, I'm so anti-racist, I'm so LGBT friendly, but then that like false morality gives in way to the demons, can't see him, right?
Yeah.
So
it's the shadow side of like the everything is okay, everything is one, we're all one, it's all perfect, there's no right or wrong, which is the non-duality perspective, and there's truth to that. But the shadow side to that is like, oh yeah, let's do an orgy and do a bunch of ketamine and like, oh, we're all fine, it's all perfect. And then you got fucking demons coming through. And yeah,
I'm so fired up you're talking about this, because I think about it so much, and I've had that awakening too, and deep respect for being brave enough to say it. I'm sure a lot of people are not liking what you're saying. Anyways,
yeah, let's piss them off. Let's trigger them into enlightenment.
So after that experience where you see the mass harvesting, where did you go from there? Like, what do you start researching, discovering? What did you figure out after that? What kind of conclusions did you come to as to like, why the fuck are there dark dementors feeding off people doing drugs? Like, how did you answer that? How did you go about answering that question, and what's the answer you've come to now?
So I actually didn't really go too deep into the metaphysical understanding of what was happening, the spiritual understanding of what was happening, because to me it didn't really matter that much. I just knew that people are being fucking finessed. People are being tricked. People are being scammed. People are being lured into these experiences without knowing what they're actually involving themselves in, and they're getting siphoned. And you've got people that people look up to making a lot of money off of spiritual people, digging themselves deeper into this demonic agenda, essentially. And my conclusion was, yes, something has to fucking change. And so I've been very present to, okay, like, there's a lot of powerful people that are involved in this on some level, that are building companies. A lot of the biggest companies in this spiritual world are hijacked by ego, by greed, by this old paradigm programming of capitalism and fucking colonialism. Has no place in New Earth. That shit has to go. And for us to create a new way of moving, we need to talk about those things. But okay, here's just me, some kid from Norway, trying to take on a fucking shark with millions and billions of dollars. Like, I gotta be really strategic with how I go about doing this. And so that's really been what's been present for me. Like, after the Envision Festival experience, I was like, I'm gonna fucking expose all this shit. Like, I was making videos and stories about this shit, and like, people have been kind of messaging me like, Thor, what happened? Like, you were gonna expose the Envision shit. And I'm like, yeah, and I need to be really fucking smart about how I go about this, because I'm not trying to put myself in a very compromised position. I've got a lot of people that rely on me. I've got a big community that look to me for answers and whatnot. So I've got responsibilities, and I can't just like be a fucking martyr and like sacrifice myself in the name of, Christ or fucking New Earth. That's not the way. It would be the easier way for sure. The martyrdom complex, but that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to sacrifice ourselves. We're here to, transcend that, I guess, programming.
So your concern was more, you realize that it doesn't matter why these things are harvesting on us. It's more so that it's fucking happening.
It's happening, yeah.
And since it's happening, we got to do something to correct it.
Yeah.
So how do we correct that? How do we? I'm assuming that my answer is in basically, I was in the exact same path as you. Like my focus in the past year has been really, how do I protect myself against these entities? How do we protect ourselves? What are they actually feeding on? So we can talk about that now. How does one protect themselves? How does one start armoring themselves to not be a harvest loose person, as David Icke calls it, for these dark spirits?
Discernment. That's number one. Questioning everything, and also understanding the understanding darkness, understanding this matrix. I mean, it's all really, it's all there. It's all kind of obvious in a sense once you understand the programming of this matrix, of this internal matrix and external matrix. It's feeding off of fear. Like if you're living in a lot of fear, then you are projecting that into the world, and these entities or whatever are going to be around you. And actually, this is the answer. This is the answer to how you protect yourself from demons, from these dark beings that want to siphon off your energy and whatnot. How you do that is through, I'm going to tell this quote from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it perfectly explains how you do it. And the quote goes, "A true mind can weather all the lies and the illusions without getting lost. A true heart can touch the poison of hatred without getting harmed. Since beginningless time, darkness thrives in the void, but always yield to purifying light." So that's really the answer. A demon can't even engage with you if you're operating from light, if you're walking in that truth. Because even by being in the presence of that energy is depolarizing that entity, that being. And they don't want to be polarized towards the positive, because then they're losing power. They harness their power from the darkness. So they're not even going to want to be around somebody that is of pure light or of a lot of light, because they're being harmed simply in the presence of that.
Yeah, what I realize is that, amazingly said firstly, but I realize that demons and angels really support the reality we want to experience, right? You want to have a horror movie? Great. The demons are going to support that, right? You want to live in a beautiful, grateful, amazing life. The angels support that. So people, like, that's why I realized that the protection really is getting intentional, and like, do I want to live in a fucking horror drama show where I'm constantly triggered and everything's horrible? Like, you want to have that experience? They'll play that game with you, right? Once you declare, I'm not playing that game, I want to have, as you said, new earth, new heaven. Then I realized, okay, then the question becomes, like, what in me is leading me to want to live in a horror show? Like, what in my body? What trauma? That's for me. The real protection is healing your trauma. That's like the number one thing. Like, what is actually making me want to live in this experience of having fear-based perceptions constantly. And the other one, it's probably more important one, is good health. Like, bad health is one of the easiest portals for darkness. If you're unhealthy, you're sick, you're fat. I hate to break it to you, but you're gonna get fucking finessed.
Yeah. Absolutely. On point with what you said. They're just supporting the experience that you want to have. And this is where the concept of free will comes in. You choose. You have free will. You can choose the kind of experience that you want to have. And that also obviously needs to be backed up by action. And this is where you see some people like, oh, we got to protect ourselves from darkness. You got to buy guns to protect yourself from the government and blah, blah, blah. The act of buying guns is affirming and manifesting for you the reality that you might probably going to have somebody come at the door and you're going to have to use the guns.
Bro. I'm so glad you say that. Because I live in Texas where everything's so gun crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not like for banning them, but I don't have them for that reason.
Yeah. Because like you're entertaining the reality that you're going to need them.
Yeah.
If you have a plan B, then your plan A is suffering because energy is being put into this plan B, which has taken away, quote unquote, manifestation power in super spiritual words towards your plan A, your initial reality. And so embody the world, live in the world internally that you want to live in, and that will be the external representation. Like for me, dude, I have the most amazing travel experiences right now. How I'm moving around, what's happening. It's like God is just fucking like protecting me at all cost. Why? Because that's the reality that I choose to live in. I'm around amazing people. There's no bullshit. There's no drama in my life. None of my relationships in my life have any, bullshit. Like, I'm just like, wow, what the fuck happened? Like, there's just truth everywhere. And it's so beautiful and play. How? Well, because I chose to embody that, and then it's presented in the external.
I think a worthy topic of conversation is how, I think you're very well versed in speaking to this, how the media, Hollywood system, the music system kind of perpetuates the culture where these hijackings can take place. So from your perspective, what are the main ways someone who is plugged into the matrix of, modern day music and Hollywood, not allowing themselves to escape the matrix per se?
People get stuck in the matrix through the food that they eat. You're brushing your teeth with fluoride and shit, calcifying your pineal gland, the seed oils, all of that stuff. That's a rabbit hole. You got music, what you're listening to is programming you, what you're watching, your social media feed, what people are talking about on your social media feed, really just what you give your energy to is what is creating this feedback loop. And the biggest influencers on the platform, Mr. Beast, KSI, Logan Paul, Kim Kardashian, all these artists as well, they're all pushing demonic shit. How so? Well, take Logan Paul, KSI, and Mr. Beast. They just launched this new company called Lunchables or something like that. Lunchly, yeah. And it's just this garbage fucking food box for kids with a bunch of fucking sugar and processed foods. And they're like selling that to kids now. And their audiences are kids. They're just doing that to make a bunch of fucking money. And that's, in essence, the demonic agenda. All these three people are just running from their own shadows. They're all on ego, all about status. They don't really give a fuck about each other. They're just trying to grow, more, build. And at the detriment of other people. They don't really care if they step on other people. That's the whole demonic agenda. So just them having a lot of influence and even talking about really anything is an expression of the demonic agenda, because they are embodying those values and principles of, you could say, evil.
Do you think that anything that comes out of a person who is stuck on the egoistic hamster wheel is going to be a manifestation of the demonic?
That's a good question. And so this is like, no, because it's not that black and white. Like, there's nuances to everything. And like you said, like, Satan played an important role in exposing truth in God's creation. Oh, he just made Adam and Eve aware of the power of free will. And that was a quote unquote flaw in God's creation. But Satan did God a service by exposing the truth of God's creation. So like, you can run in these loops forever. And like, the core of understanding anything in this life is through paradoxes. Like, everything's a fucking paradox. I don't necessarily believe that a person that's, operating from, again, because it's a spectrum, like how deeply engaged in the fear programming, how low on the frequency spectrum are you? The lower you are, the more, you got the highest of what is that chart? The chart of the frequencies. You got authenticity, love, Then at the center you got pride, which is the highest of the low frequencies. Which is interesting how the whole pride movement is the highest. It's perceived as self-empowerment, but it's still of the lower frequencies. And then at the bottom of that you got like shame and guilt and whatnot. If somebody's operating from shame, like, most of what they're expressing is going to be just poison that you don't want to engage with. So it's obviously important. And this is where we have to discern, who are we following? What are these influencers saying is one thing, but who are they being? How do they express themselves? You got Jack Dorsey, for example, like this rich ass kid that just literally built this brand off of fucking with people and creating chaos around himself. And people are feeding this. And I was even speaking to Harrison the other day. He was traveling somewhere and he was around a bunch of these kids that are making like fucking $100,000, $500,000 a month. What are they doing? Well, they are just mass producing and pumping out degenerate content, brain rotting the next generation. They're making a lot of money, but like, at what cost? And so it's like, this is where it gets tricky. but yeah, most influencers are operating from a lot of ego, and that's what we need. That's not what we need. And you also can't really blame them either, because in many ways that's what the people want. They're just giving people what they want, and so they're just playing the game. It's what the algorithm seemingly is pushing. It's pushing degenerate shit, so people are incentivized to do degenerate shit. And this is where the true change on social media, in the world in general, is going to come from us actually doing this shit within us. So that, I don't really want to watch some degenerate person smashing milk bottles in a supermarket, creating chaos. Like, I don't engage with that. And then when we stop, it's just supply and demand. It's just business in general.
So how strict are you with your own consumption?
I'm quite strict with my own consumption.
Give us a rubric of how you assess what you should consume.
Yeah, I'm very strict with my own consumption of social media content, but it's not like I put this like wall or prison around myself, because Osho, a wise man, once said, whatever you deny yourself becomes your prison. And so I'm not a fan of denying myself necessarily anything, but I very rarely scroll. And it's more so just because anytime I scroll for longer than 5 minutes, I feel it. I feel I just feel the distortions in what I'm consuming. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And a part of me too is like, you should be creating. You should be expressing. You're not supposed to, like, this is not truth. This is inorganic for you to just sit and consume a bunch of random shit. And so whenever I do consume stuff, I'd like to do it a lot more intentionally. Either I'll watch a movie or I'll watch stuff on YouTube. And I'll be very intentional about what I'm picking. I might maybe watch, an hour of stuff a day in terms of like consuming stuff, because it's valuable to get that input. And also sometimes I just kind of want to brain rot a little bit, watch some Logan Paul drama whilst I'm eating, zone out, just,
Yeah, I get it. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
In terms of music, like, go into what the effective is of listening to kind of demonic, lower vibrational rap music. What is the effect? Let's say the average, 14-year-old white kid in the U.S. pumping, Travis Scott and Uzi and all these people nonstop. What does that do to them?
Well, I'm not very versed on like the science of what music does to your brain, but
you don't have to be.
It's but what
obvious.
What you take in is what you're gonna be putting out. What you take in and consume is programming you. So when you're just listening to this lyrics talking about fuck bitches, get money, all this stuff, like that is then imprinted upon your subconscious, and your subconscious is just feeding you in your external reality what you imprint on it. And you're just gonna get that. You're gonna live in that reality where this is what matters. You're gonna be obsessed with status and money and all this stuff, and you're just gonna you're putting yourself on this hamster wheel of bullshit. And dude, it's kind of annoying because some of the fucking my favorite music is fucking Lil TJ, Polo G. They got bangers.
You gotta give yourself some space to listen to all the time. I think for me, it's like, it's not the main CD in my car per se.
Yeah.
It's like every now and then I'll put it on.
Yeah.
The main CD has to be something a little more wholesome.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting. I've noticed, like, I used to listen to that shit like all the time. It would be the only thing I listen to when I'm working.
Same here, yeah.
I'm just like bumping fucking Polo G or Lil TJ and like rapping out. And I love freestyling. I love rapping. But I can't do it the same anymore. Like, I notice how it just impacts my thoughts, I feel weird. The only times that I can really enjoy it is if I'm on a road trip in my car, just like fucking blasting it. Like, I'm at a high frequency and I'm really moving the energy, or I'm at the gym. At the gym, I'm always bumping Lil TJ.
I appreciate the honesty.
And I feel it. I'm just like, yeah, let's fucking go.
Yeah, you're creating alchemy of it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I want to kind of close with a more like personal side of things. Before we started, you mentioned that, you didn't date it really at all in your journey of becoming the man you are and your journey of success. I'd love for you to go into like what made you make the decision, and what was the effect of it on you?
What made me make the decision to not date?
Yeah. Was it honestly, was it a decision, or was it just
it was a conscious decision. Yeah. I did choose not to date, mostly because I was just I don't want distractions. I'm building a fucking empire. I'm building a business. I'm escaping this fucking matrix. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to live the laptop lifestyle. I want to do this. Like, that was way more exciting to me, way more inspiring to me than like a relationship. And I would also see my friends end up in relationships and lose their masculine oomph, their power. It's like, what happened to you? Like, where's your life force? And so I was like, also like, oh, I don't want that. Fuck that. And I would occasionally, you know, engage with women here and there at a party, or, you know, download Tinder, you know, talk to some girls, you know, get a girl over, have sex. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Still got it. Still the man. You know, get out. And then I'd go back into like just a grind bubble for like 6 months and not even talk to anyone. Because even just like spending time on Snapchat, like nurturing these leads type beat was just a waste of time. And it's like, the more I also got into spirituality and awakening, I'm like, I don't even know how to do this thing on Snapchat. Like, take a photo of like half my face and like write this. Like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, you don't know the riz. Yeah.
Yeah, I know riz, bro, in that game. No riz with low conscious women. It's impossible.
So what was the advantage you gained from doing that, from taking that, making that choice? What do you feel like it gave you? If you were to compare, like, let's say a different version of you in a different timeline was out there, you know, thirsting for bitches, and you're now in this reality. What was the felt experience of the two different timelines?
The biggest win by not engaging with women and just focusing on my own grind was I found myself. I found myself very fast. Because I wasn't distracted. Not to say, I believe being in a relationship, a conscious relationship where truth is foundational, is one of the most profound areas of growth and evolution you can have.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm experiencing now, moving into this new chapter of life. But for, you know, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 20, 23, 23, 24, like, most people at that age are fucking clueless and they're stuck in a situation they don't want to be in. So adding a relationship on top to that, creating more chaos and attachments and bullshit is not a good idea.
Yeah. My only concern, I'll be honest with you, the only pushback I have on this, I've agreed with everything you said so far. The only thing I kind of feel a little like, I'll be honest with you, is that my deepest trauma is with abandonment. My mom. Right, that's my deepest wound. Like, nothing even, literally, my mom, it sounds really fucked up, but it is true. The pain I experienced as a 19-year-old falling in love and getting abandoned felt worse than my mom actually dying. Like, that's how intense my trauma was of separation, that like just that trigger literally felt like I was dying, because as a kid, as a baby, that literally was my reality. I felt like I was dying because of the separation constantly. So for me, had I not gotten into relationships at a young age to gradually move through that trauma, I don't know if I would have, let's say I skipped everything. I'm 26. I don't know how old are you?
So your mom died at birth?
No. My mom died around 2 years ago.
Okay.
I'm saying that, like, the trauma of experiencing the trigger of my abandonment wound was harder to let go of than actually her dying. Like, that's how deep it ran in me. Why I'm saying that is that, like, that wound only, thankfully now I'm pretty free of it. It only graduated out of my body by experiencing constant, like, breakups, rejection. Like, I had to move through the fire to experience it. What I'm saying is, my concern is that, like, if I hadn't done that, I don't know the answer, I'm theorizing. If I hadn't had those relationships, who's to say that I wouldn't have to go through the same exact fire at 26? Who's to say, like, I don't know the answer. Maybe
but that's a great point.
You know,
that's
like,
a great point.
I cleared so much doing that dance, but maybe that was my thing, because I don't. It's not that you had your relationship with your mom was more stable. Mine wasn't. So I think for me, I had to experience those things to, you know, that I was in a 3-year relationship from 21 to 24, and seeing my shadow, seeing how fucked up I was in many ways, taught me so many things that I don't know if I would have seen if I hadn't done that. Or I would have experienced it maybe, but at 26, and I would have to gone through like infantile wounds at 26. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm just giving you a different perspective.
It's true, you know? Though. It's on the money, and it's like, it's so this is where it's like, it's not black and white. And for me, I was not dating women, but I was dating my business. I was building a business, which is another relationship, which is what for me brought up all the shadows. So
I wasn't doing that at the time.
Yeah. So it's like having 2 of those, which is like, when you're dating, it's like, it's pretty much your whole world for a lot of people, especially younger people. For me, my business was my whole world, and everything revolved around that. And so, yeah, it's
maybe that's like the mirror your soul chose at that time to find yourself, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a mirror because that's my core wound. My dad's stuff came later, but my core wound was that worthiness and like the mirror of the feminine, like realizing that like I cannot base my sense of self-worth of feminine approval. That dance was my education.
And my core wound was like also unworthiness expressed in the form of I need to win at everything to be worthy. And then business was like the most difficult thing that I could tackle, because now I'm not just competing against my little hometown in the sport. I'm competing against everybody in the world engaging in online business. And that is an impossible thing to win. So like my soul was like, yeah, we have to move in here because that's where you're going to lose and you need to lose.
The last question I have on this is I don't know if you had, feelings for someone after that experiment, but do you feel like you lost out on something? Do you feel like now you're ready? Like you feel like you have the king codes to be a good partner? Do you feel like is it not true that you needed to have those experiences as a younger person to then be ready for your queen? That's a question I have. Like, do you feel like you're ready, even just from like not experiencing that? Because if so, like, all power to you, man. Because I there's many different roads to the same destination, right? So I'm curious, like, if your road is there.
A part of me can totally see and like logically make sense of a reality where the first person I date is the person that I marry and we end up living happily ever after. I mean, even just the relationship we have so far it's quite mind-blowing to me, and it also makes perfect sense because it's also just an extension of how all my relationships are. Every single relationship in my life is rooted in truth. Nothing goes unspoken. Everything is expressed. And even on the yacht when I first met her, by day 3, I couldn't fucking like move. I was so paralyzed by the intensity of the feelings. I have to tell her. I have to just express this. And so I asked her like, yo, can we just sit down for a second and talk? And we sat down at the back of the boat. And I was just like, all right, so listen, I'm like feeling mad emotions around you right now. And I don't expect you to do anything with this information, but I just have to say it because I don't know how to do anything else but like speak the truth.
Gentlemen, that's real Riz out there. That's the real Riz. Just raw honesty.
Dude, she was baffled by my vulnerability and my honesty. And that's like at the core of
how did she react to that?
She, initially I felt like she was kind of rejecting me because she didn't really reciprocate anything. She just kind of like received it. But I think for her too, it's like, what the fuck is like, what is this? Because she's never had that. Most women have never had that level of honesty. And so I feel fully capable and ready of engaging in this.
Sounds that way. That's a pretty evolved way of doing things. I think that what I'm hearing from you is that you mastered human relationship through other endeavors.
Exactly.
Right. And it's the same blueprint, right? It's the same thing of just, I can't control anyone. I have to love people. I have to speak my truth. That can be learned in any facet of relationship. And it seems like
especially
what you did
business.
for like, it took me I only just now am able to do that.
Yeah.
Just able to like, just reveal my truth with an open heart. So that's, you got to the destination that way and it was incredibly effective.
Yeah.
How old are you?
25.
Okay. Yeah.
And
that's pretty crazy for
you're 98?
98.
Yeah, 99.
Okay.
Yeah, man. It's like business was that tool for me, building relationships in that way. And it's like, it's so cool to see like the team in the different companies that I'm building right now. Like we're all family. Like we're linking up in person. We're fucking around, hanging out. Like it's such a beautiful relationship. So it just feels like brotherhood and sisterhood. And so that energy, that radical authenticity is what I bring to everything. And it's also what we need to do. Like if you look at what does the New Earth relationship look like? Well, radical truth. What does New Earth look like? It's literally people walking around fully embodying their own soul's blueprint, being completely honest with themselves. And through being completely honest with yourself, you can be completely honest with other people. That's New Earth. That's what communities and relationships look like in New Earth. And so I'm preaching about this shit. So naturally it makes sense that I'm also walking the talk. And so every day, like this is what I'm living and breathing, and this is what my meditation is. It's just like constantly being present to this, what's coming up, what I'm feeling, what is the truth, what is my truth, what is the highest path of moving here, and operating in that way. And like, I gotta be, if I'm gonna preach about this shit, I gotta be lead by example. And that's what why my community follow me, why they, show up. Like the first retreat that I hosted last year was or not last year, it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago in Norway. And I was crying the most on the retreat. And people were like so fascinated by how I was so raw and real in my expression of my emotions. And so a lot of people are just like, Thor, this is like, I'm fully convinced, like I want to be a part of what you're building in community, because it's like, it's so raw and so real. And so for me, that was just like, oh, nice. Actually, I can be a little bitch, whatever, in my ego mind. Oh, you're a bitch if you're crying. I can be that and actually be received and respected and not judged as somebody who is weak, because men shouldn't cry. No, men should cry for sure.
Well, Thor, been an absolute pleasure. I rarely end this and feel like I made a brother. So, it's awesome that it's just meet someone. It's rare to meet someone who can see the world in the same way. It's done enough inner work to be able to get there. So, thank you for doing all that inner work, and it's been a pleasure. And is there any like project you're working on you want to shout out for people to tune into? Like, where can people get closer to you?
Yeah, projects. Thank you, by the way. It's been a fucking pleasure on this pod. Super fun conversation. How can you learn more from me? My Instagram, Life by Thor. I also have an online school community where I teach personal branding. In New Earth is our main program, and so it's a group container and a course program. And yeah, I mean, we do retreats too. We're just starting this retreat business. We're doing our next retreat now in 3 weeks in Guatemala. We call it the Personal Branding Rebirth Retreat. So it's the same stuff that we're doing in the coaching business, just in person together, in a more intense way. And it's also so much fun in person. So yeah, I mean, if you want to know more about any of those things, just hit me up on Instagram, send me DM, and yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, Thor.
Thank you, bro. Big love.
I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to watch more content, please click this video right here, and don't forget to subscribe right here. Thank you.